I think one of the most important innovations in teaching, at least on the horizon, is making sure that we are incorporating the kinesthetic. I know sometimes this appears to be kind of the most easily accessible modality towards which teachers teach and plan in their instruction, but it's often, I think, really overlooked, or it's done in a way that's very superficial. What EM Techniques does is it provides us with a platform and a framework to really incorporate more discrete movement techniques. So it gives us an opportunity to really push a lot deeper into making sure that we are including the kinesthetic. And so, how does this play out in terms of instruction? You know, differentiation is key, particularly when you have a school like ours that has inclusive classrooms, where we have a wide diversity of learners. Many of those learners, they begin, and I don't know if this is just based on statistics or what, but many of the learners, they begin by having first access to the kinesthetic. And so by paying really close attention to how we are incorporating movement into our instruction and into our core instruction, our instruction around higher order thinking skills, what it does is I think it helps us create a better on-ramp to understanding for our students than they might otherwise have. And because we've been exploring EM techniques, we have really been very deliberate in our planning. It really affects the way that we lesson plan and the way that we go about being strategic and tactical about the choices we're making with our content, with our resources, with our tools. And so I believe that this has an opportunity to really kind of push kind of instructional innovation to the next level. And in some ways it's a throwback. In some ways it's kind of return. I think in years past, people really viewed physical activity as something that's existed separately from the instructional environment. When in truth, I think holistic practitioners recognize that the kinesthetic is a major input for many of our children, particularly many of our children who are struggling with literacy. And so we see this as a tool, an approach, again, a framework that will really help us reach kids we might otherwise have much more difficulty reaching.
Hello, my name is Michelle Matthews. I'm the pedagogy partner and school leader at TFOA, Professional Preparatory Charter School. Brother Emory worked with us as a school this year, helping to implement a system that allows our teachers to access their understanding of how to reach kinesthetic students and also children who have tactile strengths, musical, and other things that don't tend to be easily accessible when teachers are trying to differentiate. Brother Emory also really modeled for us several different ways that we can just make our whole entire class more holistic and nurturing to the child's well-being, especially in the early childhood environment where they're still very based on concrete experiences. He worked with my teachers to create games and different ways that they can reach their learners from nonverbal even standpoints when trying to reach certain behavioral goals. Whether that's certain routines that they want to look away, or whether that's particular dynamics of social interaction that they're trying to teach, a whole variety of different transdisciplinary skills that really are enhanced when there's a physical aspect that also reaches into the way the mind is processing its experience. In addition to that, Brother Emory also implemented various wellness programs for my teachers, helping them become self-aware of their bodies and their environment as educators, especially when we're working 12 hours a day, etc. And that was just yielded great results for some of my teachers. Some became interested in martial arts. Some branched off and didn't continue working with him per se, but really just became invigorated about how they wanted to pursue their own wellness. And what that's yielded for us is just a heightened self-awareness about taking care of ourselves, which really has affected our teacher attendance and also the ways that they make plans together in terms of how they're going to execute. There's not a culture, sometimes we beat up our bodies as teachers, and that's just not a culture at our school this year. And for myself, Brother Emory also worked with me on a PT issue, physical therapy issue, that potentially could have caused me to be out of work for 6 months, potentially even having surgery. And the exercises he did with me in the context of these, movement sessions for educators actually prepped me so well that when I got to physical therapy, the gentleman had me working almost independently immediately. And I've been able to avoid surgery. So thank you to Brother Emory for all of the above.
I'm Damian Dunkley. I work at TFOA Professional Prep Charter School, and we've been involved working with Brother Emory over the last school year. We started over the course of the summer working with our staff to integrate a lot of his concepts into the school, into the classrooms, because one of the things we definitely realized that bodily kinesthetics is definitely one of the avenues, the modalities that our kids learn through. So this is definitely a natural fit and integration. So we started with our staff over the summer. We went on a adventure up to New Paltz where it really brought us together and faced challenges where a lot of our staff members who had never been on an excursion like that were able to face something that initially they thought was insurmountable, but together we were able to collectively get through, and that was through the guidance of Emory and his guides that really generated an experience that we're now able to take back into the classrooms. And over the course of the summer, we proceeded to engage in different techniques where we worked on breathing techniques, stretching, and a lot of the concepts that really came home is that even for the adults to really internally get kids to manifest their optimum in terms of movement, exercise, they have to grasp these concepts themselves. So sometimes some adults with their fear of falling, or it might be something with their weight, they were able to overcome. They might have found out that they they had an injury with their knee. They realized how to compensate for themselves, and still able to then take the lessons that we've learned and then employ them in the classroom. I know for myself, my second graders love a lot of the techniques we've used, especially ones that get them to think about processing information via other senses. For example, there's something that we do where the kids are blindfolded, one person's sitting in a chair, and we have kids spread out through the room, and there's someone who's then approaching and they have no visuals. They have to try to identify where the person is coming using just their listening skills and other cues and clues, and they love it. In fact, they're always begging, can we do that again? And these are some of the examples of ways that we've been able to continue to integrate a holistic approach in the classrooms and cater to a need that our kids have. Our kids love to run, to move about, and really teaching them how to understand spatial awareness, movement, moving around the classroom. We play games with the drums, where they have to, different speeds, move it up, and this is like 10-15 minutes way of really continuing to ensure that we're meeting all the needs of our students. The sedentary life that we've adopted, a lot of times coming into schools and sitting, that's not really developmentally appropriate for a lot of our kids. So we really have to find innovative ways of trying to, get more out of our kids. And if you can connect to one of these other areas, it will then transfer over to the academics and to all the other areas. So this is definitely something that has been beneficial, and we're going to continue working with them because as our staff, I definitely know they've also reached out to actually do it for themselves, working individually with him on certain areas that they want to strengthen, or certain things that they've just put off all this time, and just having someone with a knowledge base that he has with the science, the actual physiology, the anatomy, and really breaking it down, and also just speaking regularly. It's not, it's a way that everyone can really understand in everyday language. So it's definitely been an asset having this partnership, working with him, and I definitely encourage anyone to check it out for yourself.